So, you're a business owner dedicated to the significant and sustainable growth of both you and your business. Welcome to the Add a Zero podcast.
Hello, I'm Jay Allen. I'm founder of the Add a Zero podcast. I'm delighted to be sharing with you this episode today where we're going to talk about self-worth. Now, don't get me wrong, as a business owner, it's critically important for us to be able to establish as to who we are, what we are, and where we're heading. There's nothing more important as a leader than to be able to have confidence in being able to deliver that. And yet, too many business owners, either at the start of their career or throughout their career, are starting to be challenged by their own beliefs around their capabilities to continue to deliver at the rates that the business needs them to deliver at. So today I want to talk to you about what are you doing on a personal development scale in order to ensure that as you grow, the business grows, and as the business grows, you grow also. It's probably best if I start with a brief story about a client that I've been working with recently called Sean. Sean is a phenomenal tradesman. He started off life a long time ago now. Sean is in his early to mid 60s now and tells me quite passionately that when he started in man and boy, he did a 4-year apprenticeship. Can you imagine that these days? A 4-year apprenticeship before qualifying into his craft. And he's been in that role and continuing to work through it, becoming a master craftsman in 1996 and currently having done almost 38 years in his craft from man and boy. Now, things changed a while ago for Sean, who had always been an employee working for somebody else in the business, until that business owner declared that on their next birthday, when they turned 65, their whole and sole intent was to close the doors and to stop trading. And all of a sudden, Sean had gone from being a loyal employee working for somebody else to being faced at 55 years old with being redundant and possibly difficulty in finding work in a very specialist industry. And Sean, almost through necessity as opposed to anything else, decided to be able to operate independently with some of the customers that had previously worked with the business he used to work for when the business folded. The business closed, the clients needed the work to continue, and Sean was willing to be able to do some of that work within his skill set and has been doing that for the last, I'm going to say 6 or 7 years now. And yet, what I quickly learned when we started working together is the disparity between the competency, the qualifications, the skill, the ability, the experience that he has in a very, very technical role and the revenue within his business. It just didn't make sense that somebody of such good skill and capability to be able to turn his hands to X and Y and Z in a moment's notice with all of the tools and the kits and the equipment and knowing how to fix things was earning such little money. So I needed to delve into his pricing structure and understand more about how he's devised some of the fees that he's charging. And it very quickly became apparent that Sean had got no appreciation between an employee's costs and that of running a business. He'd simply taken his end salary from 7 years ago, divided it by 12 and said, well, I need to invoice a minimum of X because that's how much I used to earn, without taking into any consideration the operating costs or the competitive advantage that he had over anybody else or the value that he provided to the services or how much profit the company had previously been adding to the invoice prior to him and his salary takeout. He had no appreciation of that whatsoever. And it was only when we quickly looked at some of the facts and figures from his industry that we were able to realise that for the last 6-7 years, he'd been undercharging by around 60% compared to what the competitors are charging. And we're able to be able to slowly increase fees, certainly quickly increase fees for new customers, whilst increasing fees slightly more incrementally for existing customers also. But it's also created another challenge for him. Sean is now earning as a business more money than he's ever earned as an individual. And he's now being challenged with that income. And he's never seen that amount of money coming into his bank account before. And therefore challenged with regards to what that means for him as an individual and how he starts to believe in himself and in self-worth and what that means to him and what it allows him to be able to do. However, there's another concern that I need to share with each and every one of you because so many businesses don't understand it. That if you want to be able to move into a new era, there's a lovely expression that says, new level, new devil. What I mean by that is, as the business continues to grow and evolve and develop, as we hit those milestones along the way, be it a six-figure, multi-six-figure, multi-seven, eight-figure and beyond, whatever milestone it is that you've set on your goal towards success and whatever that means to you, as we hit another milestone, it determines that we have to step into a new level of understanding, that we have to evolve at the same pace, that we don't become the bottleneck that is otherwise holding our business back from being able to achieve all that it's set out to achieve. And one of the biggest challenges I see is that as the business continues to grow and evolve, particularly once we've started to apply some of the Adazero methodology and starts to see it properly take traction, is the risk and the fear and the uncertainty for business owners making bigger decisions. They're uncomfortable with being able to step into that of managing director, chief executive officer, chairman of the board, chairperson of the board. They find it a lot more challenging to be able to make bigger decisions when the business is doing so significantly well, that it's about understanding that we need to evolve in order for our business to evolve also. And one of the things, it's rather a crude way of being able to do this, but one of the ways that I was taught to do this 4 businesses ago when I first bought my first business from a chap called John in Bolton and grew and evolved that business. But I was taught this from my first ever mentor some 17, 18 years ago. And I've been so blessed to be able to have learned that lesson early on in my career that it's done nothing but help and support me to be able to continue to evolve as a person and as a business owner. And I want to be able to share that with you today to see if it can help you also. I want you to pick the next financial milestone on your journey. Be that moving from 5 to 6 figures, or 6 to multi-6, or multi-6 to 7, or 7 to 8, whatever milestone it is that you've set yourself. I want you to pick the next milestone of revenue turnover, of what does the next level of success mean for you and your business. And then I want you to divide that number by 260. Not 365, but 260. 260 because there are roughly 260 working days in a year if we take the traditional 4 weeks holiday and bank holidays and that type of thing. There's about 255 to 260 working days in a year if we do Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 type thing. So I want you to take the milestone annual revenue of what you want to achieve in the next 12 months or so. I want you to divide that by 260. So you've got a goal daily revenue. And then I want you to consider what that number is. I want you to know what that number is. I want you to write it down somewhere. I want you to be a conscious number. And then I'm going to question you with regards to, and are you acting and living up to, leaning into, are you dressing, are you addressing the manner in which that person with that daily responsibility is responsible for? Have you stepped into that yet? Or are you still skirmishing around the sidelines, hoping that one day it might become true? You see, we've got to be willing to step into what it is that we want to become in order for us to be able to become. We've got to be willing to know what that looks like, feels like, tastes like, smells like, feels like. And the best way to be able to do that is to understand where are we heading. What does that look like on a day-to-day basis? And then question, are you living into that? Are you leaning into this? Are you doing what that person requires of you today in order to be able to make that more of a reality? One of the things that I often find that business owners fail to do is to let go of the stuff that isn't currently or still serving them. I've mentioned in a previous episode, everything that you've done has led you to where you are today. And yet everything that you are doing today is defining what you're capable of achieving tomorrow. And if you continue to do what you've always done, then at best you're going to have what you have already. We have to be willing to acknowledge that some of the things that have led us to where we are today are now holding us back from the things that we need to move into. And therefore, on a regular basis, not just annually, probably more quarterly, we should be looking through our daily actions as a business owner and saying, how much longer do I still want to be doing this before I hand it over to somebody else? There's a great book, and for the life of me, whilst I'm recording this podcast, I can't remember the author. Forgive me. Once I've found it, I'll make sure it's in the show notes for you. But there's a great book called Who, Not How. And it's been instrumental right at the very beginning of my entrepreneurship career in understanding the difference between not how do I do this, but who do I find who can do this already? Who do I need to learn from? Who do I need to be surrounded by? Who can I ask to do this or pay to do this in order that it gets done without taking up me or my time? I remember the first ever website that we had built for my first ever business. It was quite exciting at the time to be able to sit down. The business hadn't had a website before that, and it was right at the very early starts of the web evolution, as it were, and we were sat with the web developer in their studio with lots of colours and bright lights and shiny objects, talking about what our digital presence was going to look like, our digital footprint. During that conversation, and as we were evolving and the pages were starting to become more of a reality rather than a creative thought in somebody's mind, they started to talk to me about this thing called SEO, search engine optimization, and was telling me the importance of Google being able to understand and read and push your contents to the right users. We've got to have SEO built into this, Jay. And then they started to talk to me about ongoing SEO packages. Well, I looked at the investment that we were making in purchasing the website. And then I thought, hang on a minute. Have I got to make this sort of investment every single month to keep up with it? This has suddenly gone from a few £100s to several thousands of pounds on almost a daily, weekly, monthly basis. This is becoming very cost prohibitive very quickly for something that we'd never done before. Maybe I could do that myself. So I bought a book from Internet called SEO for Dummies. And I read it from cover to cover. And I realised that I now knew less about SEO than I did before I read the book. It was written for somebody in a different world to the one that I live in. There was codes and pictures and diagrams and algorithms of things that I didn't even understand what it was saying as the instructions on what to do. And I thought, this is going to take me forever. I'm going to have to reread the book, and I'm going to have to look through the glossary of terms all the time. I'm going to have to quickly ask favours of people to help understand what it's talking about, and then how do I implement it, and where do I go for... Maybe that package they were offering isn't such a bad idea after all. Maybe all I need to do is to be able to negotiate a better rate. And sure enough, we were able to come to a happy compromise where they didn't do anywhere near as much as they would want to do, but they did far more than I was capable of, and the business website was launched and it continues to do well and it generated some inquiries and everyone was happy. But my point being is that I needed to understand that my job isn't to do the doing. As a business owner, we've got to be able to step away from doing the doing and spend more and more time in the strategic, operational. How do we get to where we're going to go? What resources do you need from me? What time and effort and help and support and investment do you need in order for us to be able to move forward? My job is to facilitate. My job is to become a servant leader, to be able to help the other people go on and be brilliant and achieve what it is that collectively we are trying to achieve. My job is to herd them all together, to motivate the troops and to lead them forward. Not to get bogged down in the weeds of doing the doing, as we can so easily do, and as Sean had done for all of his self-employed career, is instead of employing people, is the fear of giving away, but maintaining it, and as a result, remaining small and a one-man band, a sole trader. So today is all around self-worth, and understanding that in order for the business to grow, you have to grow with it. And in doing so, challenge some of the things that you are currently doing today to say, and how much longer am I going to continue to do that? And when will it become a bottleneck to us achieving the next scale of growth, the next level, the next milestone? When am I going to step out of my own way and allow the business to evolve and grow and develop beyond my individual capability? How do I recruit the right people and give them the right level of freedom and of parameters of responsibility that enable them to hit the accelerator collectively, that we can all enjoy the ride without me constantly have to sit at the steering wheel with my eyes pinned open, hoping that everyone's still clinging on as we crawl along in the slow lane. Scale is about people. It's about invoking the best within people, creating the right environments, and be willing to grow and develop. And that often means that we have to grow and develop also. And some of that time it means giving up the things that have led us to where we are now and be willing to step into that unknown, being willing to step out of the comfort zone that you've created for yourself already. Be that six-figure, multi-six-figure, seven-figure, multi-seven-figure. It doesn't matter the size of business. It matters as to whether you're still being challenged to think bigger, better, bolder thoughts. There's one thing that Jim Rohn is regarded as having said that probably is beyond all of the other phenomenal things that the late Jim Rohn said. You become the sum of the 5 people you surround yourself with. And if you are the cleverest person in the room right now, then it's time to step into a different room. Unless you, as the business owner, as the business leader, are regularly being challenged on your thoughts and ideas and suggestions and actions to be able to not do more, but to be more for the people that are doing the doing, then you are creating the stagnation in your own business. You are becoming the hijackers to what it could be by allowing it to remain what is. Self-worth is about self-examination and about saying, what do I need to do more of? What can I afford to do less of? And what have I got to do completely differently in order for the accelerator to keep accelerating and for us to continue to enjoy this ride towards the next milestone and the next milestone and the next milestone. If you want to know more about how we help people to accelerate, then simply drop me an email at inquiries@mytruenorth.biz and let me share you a little bit more about our Basecamp, our Air Explorer and our Summit Seeker support packages to enable people to achieve their success summit. God bless, take care. I'll see you again next week.
That's all for this episode. As always, we really thank you for listening and welcome your comments, thoughts, and suggestions. So please do drop us a line by emailing podcast@mytruenorth.biz. And don't forget, if you haven't already done so, hit the subscribe button on whichever platform you're listening to this through. And tell your colleagues and business network all about who we are. You've been listening to the Add a Zero podcast presented by Jay Allen. Brought to you in association with My True North, the UK's leading ethical coaching company.